Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. Monument Avenue is one of Richmond's most beautiful streets. Along with Jackson Ward, is one of only two National Historic Landmark districts in the city. Every year, thousands of tourists flock to it. Thousands of Richmonders run down it, including myself. And still more travel its leafy cobblestone lanes on the way to work, home every day. It's been described as one of the most picturesque grand boulevards and urban residential neighborhoods in the world. But my fellow Richmonders, something is wrong with this picture. It's the story told by the Confederate monuments that give the street its famous name and have defined its landscape for more than a century. The story is at best an incomplete story, equal parts myth and deception. It was written in stone and bronze more than 100 years ago, not only to distort history by lionizing the architects and defenders of slavery, but also to perpetuate the tyranny and terror of Jim Crow and usher in a new era of white supremacy. These inanimate objects were designed to do what the Confederate generals and the racist ideologues they depict could not: keep the free African people in Virginia in bondage. The lost cause was their story, and they stuck to it. But it was not history. Monument Avenue was a real estate development that began with the Lee statue in 1890, and it succeeded as a development venture and in fabricating the lost cause ideology as truth. In fact, it was nostalgia masquerading as history. But over decades, this nostalgia became embedded and subsequently a part of our history. Part of the false narrative, the alternative facts, if you will, that we will begin to fact check starting today. I got into politics and government to give a voice to the voiceless and to right wrongs. When I was running for office, I said that these Confederate statues require context. That is, an explanation of what they actually are, who built them, why they were built, and how they came to preside over the culture of this city. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our time. It's our responsibility to set the record straight today. These will be difficult discussions, but we need to have them starting today. It is my belief that without telling the whole story, these monuments constitute a default endorsement of a shameful period in our nation and in our city. One that does a disservice to the principles of racial equality, tolerance, and unity we celebrate as values of One Richmond today. And that is why I'm pleased to announce the creation of the Monument Avenue Commission. The job of this commission will be to solicit input, public input, and make recommendations to the mayor's office on how to best tell the real story of these monuments. We have assembled a distinguished and experienced team of experts, a number of them who are here with us today: historians, artists, authors, community leaders who will guide this process. I'm honored to announce that Christy Coleman, the CEO of the American Civil War Museum, and Greg Kimball, the Director of Education and Outreach for the Library of Virginia, have agreed to serve as commission co-chairs. Thank you all very much. The city is also fortunate to have commission members Councilman Andreas Addison, Ed Ayers, Stacey Burrs, Sarah Driggs, Councilwoman Kim Gray, Julian Hayter, Laurinette Lee, and Colleen A. Butler Rodriguez. Thank you guys for your service. And I'm grateful for the leadership and willingness of David Ruth, the superintendent for the National Park Service here in Central Virginia, and Julie Langen, the director of the State Historic Preservation Office and the Virginia Department of Historic Resources, to serve as ad hoc advisors to the commission. Thank you, David. The commission will hold 2 public meetings before the end of September, and dates and locations will be announced in the coming days. Residents will be able to also offer suggestions and input on the website that has been created. The site's name will be monumentavenuecommission.org. In addition to taking on the responsibility of explaining the monuments that currently exist, I have also asked the Commission to look into and solicit public opinion on changing the face of Monument Avenue by adding new monuments that would reflect a broader, more inclusive story of our city. That is our goal. I know there's pain in the history of our city. For many African Americans, the pain is personal. As an African American and the mayor of the city, I'm keenly aware that the past walks with us every single day. William Faulkner said, "The past isn't dead, it's not even past." This is about our future. And if we want to redefine our city's future, we must correct the mistakes of its past here in the present. Sheffield Hale, the president and CEO of the Atlanta History Center, said that the past has much to teach us about who we are and where we are, if we let it. We have a chance to advance the truth, the complete truth, by using these symbols not for celebration, but as tools to educate. I wish these monuments had never been built, but whether we like it or not, they are part of our history of the city. And removal would never wash away that stain. And the need to educate and explain our history has never been more important than it is today. We live in an age of alternative facts and fake news, Holocaust deniers, and 9/11 conspiracy theorists, spouting manipulative and misguided narratives designed to build walls between us, not bridges. Whether they are cast in concrete or birthed in the cyber soup of social media, the hate that built them will not go away just because you tear it down, turn it off, or unfollow it. That is especially true when it comes to the issue of race in our country. Recent surveys on our monuments and recent demonstrations in other parts of the country tell a story of division and affirm the idea that racism doesn't start nor will it end because of some statues on a tree-lined street. It resides in hearts and minds. And the way to change hearts is to educate minds. Right now, many people probably drive past these statues and are impressed by the scale and grandeur. But they don't realize that at the same time, the statues on Monument Avenue were being erected between 1890 and 1919, the rights of African Americans were systematically removed. In 1867, roughly 106,000 African American men were registered to vote in Virginia. By the time of the Virginia Constitutional Convention of 1902, there were 147,000 African American men registered in Virginia. By 1905, there were fewer than 10,000. Between 1867 and 1895, nearly 100 black Virginians served in the two houses of the General Assembly, or in the Constitutional Convention of 1867 and 1868. By 1889, there were only 4 black legislators left. By the turn of the century, as Jim Crow took hold, there were no more black legislators in Virginia until 1968. Right now, you won't find that on any monument on Monument Avenue. But the legacy of the long retreat from democracy that these monuments commemorate lingers in our city each and every day. See, having complete history is important. My recent visit to Montpelier, the home of our 4th president, James Madison, has set an example that I think is worthy of mention. With the help of a generous benefactor, they just completed a massive renovation of the grounds that included the restoration of the south yard of the estate, where 281 slaves once toiled and suffered. The people behind the restoration and Montpelier's new important exhibit, The Mere Distinction of Color, believe that telling the complete story of our past is a bridge to a more enlightened future. So aside from telling the truth to what already exists, what does a complete story look like for us? Well, I think we should consider that Monument Avenue have a little bit more diversity on that stretch of road. Right now, Arthur Ashe stands alone as the only true champion on that street. Nevertheless, Richmond's history includes other champions, of course, like the United States Colored Troops, who marched into the city on April 3rd, 1865, and raised the American flag. And there are champions in modern times, like Oliver Hill, a defender of equality who led and won the most important civil rights battles in our nation's history. Richmond is unique among cities in many respects. and how it's handled its complex, conflicted Civil War and civil rights history. We were the capital of the Confederacy and are the city and the home of the first African-American governor of the United States of America, L. Douglas Wilder. We have expanded the conversation and understanding of history and erected a reconciliation statue acknowledging the city's role in the triangle trade, slave trade in Shockley Bottom. And we are moving forward in developing a plan to commemorate the Devil's Half Acre and Richmond Africans burial ground around Shockley Creek. We have a statue of Abraham Lincoln and Tad, his son Tad, next to the American Civil War Museum, the only museum dedicated to telling the story of the Civil War from multiple perspectives: Union and Confederate, enslaved and free African Americans, soldiers and civilians. Next month, we will dedicate a new statue of Richmond's own Maggie Walker on Broad Street. And next year, an Emancipation statue will be commemorated on Browns Island. These are all important projects and symbols that help educate, build a bridge to understanding by offering a more complete history. But let me suggest another strategy to balancing the historical ledger in our city's history. Let's make our next monument a new school, a new community center, an alternative to public housing that restores dignity and pride of place. America's history has been written and rewritten, and our struggle with race in this country persists not because public monuments rise, but because privately fear makes people falter. But what lasts, the legacy that will endure, are the people we build, the minds we enlighten, and the hearts we open on both sides. When we do that, we will not just have a few new monuments, we will have thousands, living monuments to understanding, inclusiveness, equality, and promise. They are the ones who will know the difference between myth and fact. They will know the difference between history and nostalgia. They will embrace just causes and not lost causes, and write the next chapter in the great history of our city. That is the opportunity before us. Telling the complete story of Monument Avenue is one of the very important steps on the road of building one Richmond. So let's get to work and let's make it happen. Thank you all so much. I would like to now have Ms. Coleman come up and say a few words if she'd like.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of my co-chair, Secretary Campbell, and the commission members and consultants, we want to commit to you to have open ears, to have open minds as we embark on this. This is not, by any stretch, a done deal. This is trying to figure out how we do build the one Richmond on our landscape. What I think separates us and which gives us this particular moment in time is that Richmond has been diversifying its landscape as early as 1973 when Bojangles first came. Richmond has been telling more of its stories, and we believe wholeheartedly that there is still work to do. So we are committed to getting that work done and hearing from all of you, and we hope that you will join us in this endeavor in reasoned, civil, sincere conversation about how we build one Richmond. Thank you.